Today I have the privilege to talk with Tammy Fry. And Tammy is a key influencer and thought leader, especially in plant-based nutrition. And she's currently a director at the Fry Family Food Company, and she's also the director of Meat-Free Mondays in both Australia and South Africa. And Tammy has really busted the myth around having to eat animal protein in order to be strong, and increase your athletic performance. So she was a South African champion in karate. She's an avid crossfitter, self-defense coach, surfer. She's also a businesswoman and a mom. So I mean, Tammy, I don't even know how you fit all of these things into your life, to be honest. But today we're talking about Tammy's book, Made with Love and Plants. And she's really encouraging people to go plant-based. And this is not just something that's, kind of on the side for you. It seems like it's really at the core of, who you are and part of your upbringing as well. And the motivation and your history with plant-based nutrition really comes a long way. So, welcome. And I just want you to share a bit about your journey, because I know something that really grabbed my attention that you write about in the book is your upbringing. And it's quite interesting, that you grew up in a shack with 4 walls and no partitioning walls, and you had no running water. You had to collect the water from the river. And I'm sure that this really had an impact on your view. I mean, how it shaped you as a human being, but also your view on nutrition. So maybe you can just give us a bit of a introduction of how, your plant-based journey was shaped.
Yeah, thanks, Zena, and thanks for having me on today. I'm really excited to be chatting with you. And of course, thanks to the people that are taking the time to listen to our conversation, because I definitely don't want to take up someone's time, but if I can add value to their life in any way or share some of my experiences, I'm honored to have that opportunity. So, we had a very humble beginning in our life, and I was born in a shack in Cato Ridge on a goat farm. So my dad used to farm goats and sell them for slaughter, for ritual slaughter. If you, South Africans will know how the ritual slaughter of goats is very prevalent amongst the Zulu culture and some of the other cultures in South Africa. And so I grew up with, it was a very small house, maybe just 30 square meters. And people look at Fry's and the success it is today, but they don't always know where we came from and how that has shaped us as human beings, and how we are so humble about what we've achieved. And we are very grateful that we had that opportunity. But back to the animals on the farm, I think, I saw these goats being shipped off for slaughter, and I started to name members of the herds because I felt like if they became pets, then my dad wouldn't sell them. And so we had like a lot of pet goats, and my mum was also a vegetarian. So her and I would get really busy with naming the goats, and particularly the cute ones, we would definitely give those names. And it just shows how, there's such a fine line between what we call a unit of currency and then something that becomes part of our family. And it's just a really, really fine line there. And I saw farm animals as, part of my family, and I would never eat them. And so I guess I was a born vegetarian, much to my dad's dismay, because he was a typical South African and he thought that you needed to eat meat to be strong and healthy. And I think that myth actually still exists today amongst a lot of South Africans, in fact, worldwide. People think that in order to be healthy, strong, fit, grow, to the same height as other kids, that you have to eat meat to do that. And it's a very old myth. And I think it's been debunked over and over again. And people are coming to learn that that's not, in fact, the case. So I grew up a vegetarian. And I guess, it was my purpose in life. My purpose was to help people to make that transition in the most simple and easy way possible. And my life has revolved around that in so many ways. Even when I went to compete for South Africa and ended up winning a junior world championships, a lot of the motivation for that was to show people that you don't need to eat meat to perform at a high level. Because my coaches, dietitians, they were all telling me, you're going to need some meat. And And of course I wasn't eating it and I wasn't going to. So it was kind of like trying to prove them wrong, you know, through my own performance. So everything I did became revolved around plant-based and plant-based nutrition, and I have a real passion for it. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the, you know, some of the aspects of the book that I've written, and share some of that with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, it's not only possible, it seems, to perform athletically with only plant-based foods, but you actually felt that it, you know, there were much more benefits. You actually felt that it was even better than eating animal protein, right? So what was the benefits that you experienced from eating a plant-based diet, specifically in your sport?
Yeah, well, you know, I had nothing to compare it to, so I can't say that I experienced eating meat and then I experienced eating plant-based. But I know hundreds of people, thousands of people that have actually, and you're seeing it now a lot more in, you know, CrossFit and some of the very, very like long distance athletes, Iron men and women, are all moving to plant-based. And it really is quite simple, you know. If you see a lion eat meat, he needs to sleep afterwards, and that's because the meat takes time to digest. In the same way, a human being eats a meat or animal protein meal and feels quite lethargic and tired afterwards because you need to process that through your gut. Plant-based foods process a lot quicker, a lot easier. So the first thing that people tell me when they move to plant-based diet is they feel lighter. Recovery is a lot quicker because plant-based is if done the right way, is a very anti-inflammatory diet. So, you know, the foods that we eat tend to be low acid, and we have faster recovery. So if you find that you want to train, you want to recover, and you want to train tomorrow, a plant-based diet is a great way to do that. And then, of course, you can get all the nutrients that you think that maybe you're going to miss out on. You can get those from plant-based foods. So you still get all your proteins, all your essential amino acids, you know, plant-based iron, all of these nutrients that people get concerned about, you know, calcium. All plant-based milk is fortified with calcium. You're getting that from the foods that you eat in a plant-based diet as easily, in fact, probably easier than from animal protein. So there's really no downside. And I often say to people, you know, don't knock it till you've tried it, because if you don't know what it's like to live on a plant-based diet, not for a day or two or three, but for a month or 2 months, you actually don't know if it's going to be better for you or not. So you know, you should be your own experiments, and you should at least give it a go. Give it a go for a few weeks. Allow that transition to happen within your body. So at week 3, week 4, you'll start feeling the benefits. Week 5, week 6, you'll really hit that smooth sailing point, and see how it feels for you. You know, and then reach out to people that are plant-based experts or friends that you know that are doing plant-based, and get the learnings from them. Let them help you along that way.
And something you also bust in the book is, you know, the belief around vitamin B12, because that's always something people, or they often comment saying that, you know, because there are no B12 in our plants, it's not natural. It's not natural to do that. And you actually explain it in the book. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, of course. So B12 did used to, you know, it was prevalent in plants and in soil because B12 is bacteria. But because we have depleted the soils, and because our plants, you know, mostly are not organically grown, they're sprayed, they're a lot cleaner, they cleaned very well, we're not being exposed to that B12. The animal is eating the plants and is creating the B12 in its body, and all we're doing is we're eating the bioaccumulated B12 from the animal's body. Animals tend to have higher B12 levels because of the conditions that they live in factory farms. So it's, you know, high bacteria. And so they accumulate this B12. So they really are just a third party. You can get, if you are on a plant-based diet, if you're eating organic, is a great way to do it. Eating your own fruits and vegetables, of course, vegetables picked out of the ground like carrots, and then not peeling them, you would get B12. And then just taking a supplement. I mean, I think most people take some supplements of some sort. And some people tend to be, low in certain nutrients. Like I naturally am always low in magnesium, so I take a supplement. So there's no problem with that. The supplements become part of our world. We find a lot of our food is actually fortified as well. So when you turn over your plant-based milk carts, and it's all fortified. When you eat your breakfast cereal, it's fortified. So we're already taking supplements in some way or shape or form, because our food system is essentially broken. It's not what it used to be. So I hope that gives some understanding to B12.
Absolutely. And I mean, even meat eaters, they also supplement in many cases. So it's really not about a plant-based diet being, you're not getting enough nutrients. So yeah, absolutely. So I want you to maybe just tell us a little bit more about the book that you've just written, so Made with Love and Plants. Where did the inspiration come from? Who would benefit from reading it? You can give us a bit more info on that.
Yeah, I'll give it to you now. I wanted to go back to the B12 because
okay.
now I'm on. I think a lot of the time people, a defense reaction to the reason they don't want to go plant-based is, it's about the B12. But when we look at a predominantly animal-based diet, what are you missing out on by not eating enough plants? And that's another question. Like, if we flip that around, are you getting enough fiber? Because the entire Western world eats half the amounts of recommended fiber. That is not found in any animal product. Animal products are devoid of fiber. So you only get that from plant-based food. So are you deficient in fiber? Are you deficient in heaps of other micronutrients, phytochemicals, lots of different, the colors and micronutrients found in plant-based foods? Because most people are deficient in a lot of those things, but they're not aware of it. So it's about balance. It's about getting a whole host of things from a whole host of places. So about the book, I had to just touch on it. Yeah. The book, I was running a couple of workshops in South Africa called the Seed Workshops, which were teaching people how to transition easily and simply to a plant-based diet. And people would ask a lot of questions, and I started to write those answers down in the form of a blog, which became the Seed blog. It was just kind of a natural transition to help people. And we did a couple of cooking demos on the Seed workshops, and people would ask for the recipes. So I started to document and record the recipes I was making, and it just kind of happened from there. It wasn't, I never went out and said, I want to be an author, I want to publish a book. It just happened slowly, and the information accumulated. And then I realized, the best way I can actually help people on a bigger scale is to publish this information so that they can have access to it. Instead of having to come to one of my workshops, they'll be able to buy the book anywhere in the world on Amazon. And so that's how it happened. I was very fortunate to meet the lifestyle publisher at Penguin. And she, immediately said yes. She said, we'd love to publish the book. I showed her some of the recipes, some of the visuals, and the food photography, which is stunning. And she was very excited about it. So it's really intended to help people who are making that transition to plant-based. It's not for what I call the level 10 vegans who know it all. This is really, the beginning of your journey. I don't make it too complicated. The recipes are for mums, busy mums that don't have heaps of time to cook and prepare food. And it's just kind of it's that kind of book. So very helpful guide and simple guide to make that transition to plant-based.
Yeah. And I must say that's kind of my criteria when I'm looking at a recipe. It needs to be easy, it needs to be quick, so I love it. I absolutely love it. And there's a big variety. So you can really try so many different things and you won't get bored. So I love that. Are there maybe any of the recipes that kind of stand out for you, or something that you maybe could just share with our listeners of what they can expect? What type of recipes can they expect?
Well, I've got different chapters that cover a bunch of different, meal times and also areas like gut health, batch cooks, things to make your life easier. So if you're time poor, like I definitely am, you know, how can you make a meal in 20 minutes with what you have in your pantry? There aren't ingredients with special names that you probably will never find. This is a very accessible cookbook for everyone. We cover breakfasts, we cover the braai, how to make delicious plant-based food on the braai. We cover dinners, snacking, lunch boxes, treats, of course, treats, sustainable gifting as well, which is an area I'm really passionate about. And then the gut health recipes like kombucha and ferments, and even making fermented cashew nut cheese. So they're very, and that sounds complicated. It's actually a really simple recipe as well. So yeah, very accessible for most people. You could probably open your pantry and have most of the ingredients that you would need to cook lots of recipes that are in this book.
Yeah, and they're absolutely delicious. You know, something I can relate to that you write about in the book. You said that your husband was an avid meat eater, right? And then you used Fry's products, and he didn't even realize that it wasn't meat. It was so delicious, right? And that's kind of something I also test on my husband often. Is, you know, when I make some healthy recipe and he doesn't even know it's the healthy version, he just loves it, right? So that's kind of my measurement of, yes, okay, this I can include, I can give to clients. So that's the key, I find. You know, if you're making that transition, if you want to be healthy, it doesn't have to be a punishment. That's so far from the truth, you know.
No, for sure. You know, I had my husband was an avid meat eater, and you know, he was a professional rugby player. So you can imagine very much, you know, the mindset that you need protein and you need meat, and real men eat meat. And for 1 month, I fed him, you know, a fully plant-based diet, and he didn't actually even realize until the end of the month, where he said to me, you know, it's amazing, my training, I just feel like I'm recovering quickly and my heartburn has just disappeared. And that's when I told him, I was like, it's because you've been on a plant-based diet. And he hadn't even really figured that out, because the food was just delicious, you know. And I think that's why people who make that switch just start learning new recipes. This book's a great place to start. Learn how to make dal and simple curries, and, you know, how to cook food for the barbecue, how to make really delicious quick meals. And nobody in your family will feel like they're lacking anything. They'll just feel like it's delicious, and, you know, they've enjoyed their food, they feel full. It's not a book of salads. So you know, these are real wholesome dishes that everyone in the family will love, because I actually tested them all on my kids. So, and they're fussy, you know, like most kids. So anything that they didn't eat was like cut from the book. It never made the print. So they were like the taste test panel, along with some of the you know, very high level chefs in South Africa as well. So they all tested these recipes, and they're really great tasting recipes.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, because you're one of the directors at the Fry food company, you know, I think that's also important, to have something like that in the freezer for those days when you don't have the time to necessarily prepare everything from scratch. So maybe you can tell us a bit more about the products and what's in there, what ranges do you have? And it is available in South Africa. Hey, sorry, it is available in South Africa.
Of course. So Fry's is a 30-year-old family business. So it's in every single store in South Africa. And we make a range of plant-based meats. Our products have all been designed and developed by our family. And we have a very strict ingredient buying process that is fully aligned with our own values as people. And we actually feed our food to our own children. So for us, it's very important what goes into our products and the quality of those ingredients. We also test for over 300 pesticides. And if we find any residue of pesticide in our product, we actually don't use those ingredients. So yeah, we make a range, for example, burgers, schnitzels, nuggets, sausage rolls, fishless fillets. We have pretty much everything that you could have in the meat form. We have got, you know, boerewors, and then there's our big fry burger, which is a 1/4 pound burger patty. And it really helps somebody to make that transition quite easily. Should you eat plant-based meat 5 times a day? No. Does it form a very important part of transitioning to plant-based? Yes, because it helps you to cook all your family favorites. You know, there's still that feeling of satiety because you're getting a high protein meal. So you're getting all your proteins without having to think about it too much. And then as you go along your journey, you might want to start making more pure plant-based foods, and you understand, you know, how much protein, where you're getting your essential amino acids from, you understand iron, you start to understand and you educate yourself about those things so you can go beyond plant-based meats. But they definitely serve a really great purpose for people who are just dabbling in plant-based. You know, maybe once a week they're doing meat-free Mondays, still want to have a burger or a hot dog, or, you know, something like that, make a cottage pie or something like that. And this makes it super, super easy for them to do that.
Yeah, no, we need those backups. But something I want to just go back to is, you know, the whole stigma around, I know we've already talked about it, but the stigma around being strong and, you know, being able to enhance your performance without animal-based protein. So something I want to ask you around that. So obviously you proved it wrong with your karate career, but when it comes to fueling yourself, this is a question I get asked so often. You know, what specifically? Do you have anything practical specifically that you can share with us? Maybe there's a specific recipe in your book that you can refer us to. That would be a great, you know, that can be used to fuel yourself before, during, and after sports events. What did you used to do? What do your husband still do? How do you fuel yourself with plant-based nutrition?
For training, you know, from my experience and knowledge, I would say, you know, before you train, you really need more carbohydrates because that's your energy. So you don't have protein before you train, you have more carbohydrates before you train. For me, that's in the form of a smoothie, usually, you know, and where I put nut butter and half a banana. I also add a lot of greens because chlorophyll is very, very good for your blood and assists with transporting oxygen around your body. So always a chlorophyll. So like something green, spinach, kale. You also get chlorophyll supplements that you can put in, you know, green that you put into your smoothie. Then I add, you know, chia seeds. I add a few other things, psyllium husk, turmeric's great for post workout. So turmeric and cinnamon and your proteins are your post workout ingredients. You know, so if you think about how you want to take those, that can come in a number of different ways. That could again be in the form of a smoothie or in the form of a meal. But just think, to keep it simple, you're really looking for carbohydrates before, proteins after. And during, not many people eat while they're training, but if you were going to sip on anything, I would say something with chlorophyll again. So I do have a chlorophyll supplement from a company called Grants, and I don't know, there must be one there. I'll usually put some chlorophyll with water. If you want to, you can add different things, you know, like magnesium, maybe a rehydrate, just depending on what you're doing. You know, if it's a short, sharp workout, you don't need all of that. But if it's something more taxing, you might need to add something like that. So yeah, that's just very, very, you know, brief. And because I mean, we're not going to be able to go into all the science of it, but just tips for everyday people. Those are a few things that you can do. And I actually do have recipes that talk about post-workouts, pre-workouts, and we do touch on that in the book. We don't go heavily into sports nutrition, but we do touch a little bit on it. And then I've also developed a plant-based food pyramid, which tells you how much you should get of each food group if you were on a 100% plant-based diet. And then each recipe is coded. So it'll tell you you're getting 2 fats, 1 protein, 1 carbohydrate. So it makes it really easy for you to build your own meal plans. Because I often find you're given a meal plan, but you know what? You don't actually eat Provitas, and actually that other thing that you've been given, you don't really like that much. So this then gives you, you know, 80 plus recipes that you can then take and tweak and use that food pyramid to create your own meal plan. And it's so easy to do. When you see the book, it's just incredibly easy to follow that system.
Yeah, and it's almost like almost find it's like a textbook. It's not just the recipes, but like you said, there's a lot of other info in there in terms of how to do it. That's often where we get stuck. The nutrition, the plan is okay, but then there's all of these barriers that we don't always think about, and our kids, will they eat the food and things like that. So I love how you really guide us or the reader through that process in terms of how to make the transitioning. So something I want to ask you is, do you find that every single person out there will benefit from a plant-based diet, or are there some exceptions?
So I always say there are so many people with, 1 in 2 people with non-communicable disease, which is lifestyle preventable. I don't think that there's one diet specifically suited to any one person, because we are multifaceted. We have different demands. We have different way of living. We have different way of cooking. We have different budgets. And so each person has to find out what works for them. Mm-hmm. But if you haven't tried different ways, you don't know what works for you. So, I think that a plant-based diet is one way to be very, very healthy. It makes you more conscious of how many fruits, vegetables. You start to become aware. And I think instead of just going and just eating, like people eat all day, they're eating breakfast, snacks, lunch, afternoon snack, dinner, snacks in between that. And there's very little thought as to what they actually consuming. So they don't know how much carbs, how much protein, how much sugar. They have no concept of that. So to start becoming aware, firstly, of what it is that you're eating, starting to take notes of that. I've got a section in the book that helps you to read food labels and look out for ingredients that you should be avoiding. Eating more whole foods is definitely a great way to start to become healthier, and eating less foods out of packets, and just not being sure. Muesli bars is a typical one. I never give my kids muesli bars because there's so much sugar in most of the muesli bars, and most parents don't really know that. They think that the advertising is telling you how much protein there is, but they didn't tell you anything about how much sugar there was. So just starting to read your labels, become aware, and start testing these things on yourself. Once you have a healthy vessel, you become so intuitive about what it is that you need. So I have what I would consider a very healthy body, and I eat almost no sugar. I have no cravings. But when I do get a craving, if I suddenly say, you know what, I really need to eat a big chunk of sourdough bread, then I know my body needs it at that time. So then I can give into that. But I don't have cravings all the time. So it's not like I'm craving sourdough bread every 3 hours. Every week, I might say or every 3 weeks, I get suddenly, I really want to eat fruit. I just need to eat watermelon. Right now, watermelon's the thing. Then I know I'm probably a little bit dehydrated. I probably need a little bit of sugars, maybe some vitamin C. And so then I'll eat watermelon. So we have to get to that point. People haven't found the starting point yet. So you need to find your starting point.
Yeah, and I find if the body is too much out of balance, it's very difficult to actually be in tune with that voice, right? And that's where something like your blood sugar balance and just your body functioning on a kind of a foundational level almost for you to be able to become more in tune. So I get that. But the thing is, it's not necessarily true that if you are a vegan, if you're following a plant-based diet, that you are necessarily healthy, because you could still be choosing Coke and white bread and pies at the garage. So that's the key. You mentioned about the whole foods. It's important, the quality of the foods that we're choosing.
Absolutely, you're 100%. I mean, there's plenty of vegans that are very unhealthy, and maybe they're not going vegan for health. Not everybody goes vegan for health. People do it for a whole host of reasons. So they might be doing it for animal rights. I don't really care how healthy they are. Mm-hmm. So we can't take those people and make that judgment, because there are a multitude of reasons. There are ways to be healthy and there are ways to be unhealthy, and there's ways to be healthy on a vegan diet, And there's also ways to be healthy on an omnivore diet.
Yeah.
But vegan diet is the only diet that is more sustainable, kinder to the planet, kinder to the animals, kinder to humanity, and can be a healthy diet as well. So it has many benefits, beyond just serving yourself. It has the benefit of serving beyond yourself. And that's where consciousness comes in, is understanding that every choice you make, everything you put in your mouth has a ripple effect and effects on something else, someone else, or the planet, the Mother Earth, which is, in a serious, a very, very, very serious situation. And the way we eat can impact on that situation. And a plant-based diet's the way to do it. You can decide that you want to go onto a meat-based diet. That's not only going to serve one person, maybe yourself, but it's not going to serve anything else. So you have to look at it in its multifaceted way.
Yeah, and I like the quote that you use in your book, or I think you write it yourself, but you said if slaughterhouses had glass walls, we would all be vegetarian. So we're so disconnected often from where meat comes from. If we were actually to see exactly how it happened, but we just get the little packet in our freezer, in the store. It's devastating to actually witness what's going on behind the closed door. And I think that's also part of a spiritual healing process, to actually be more in contact and to face reality in terms of what the horrific conditions are that animals are raised in, right?
Yeah. There's very interesting information out there as well about, the way we used to eat. We would slaughter the animal ourselves. And so you would live with that animal in your environment, and you would build the bacteria necessary in your gut to digest that animal and utilize it in the way it's supposed to be used for all of its nutrition benefits. And also use the animal in its whole form, every part of it, without wasting. Now we don't have that connection to that biome and to that bacteria. And so it's removed from us. And like you said, you get it in a packet. You don't know what that animal's been through, how it's lived its life. You have none of the gut bacteria that you need to actually digest that food, because you're so far away from it. And I mean, most people, if you ask 95% of people and you say to them, would you be able to shoot a cow in its head and look at it at the same time? Most people don't have that in them. And I often say, if you can't do it yourself, then maybe you shouldn't eat that food. But will you be able to pull a carrot out the ground? Probably yes. So, that's a great way to kind of feel about it and say, I don't know if this is the type of food I want to eat every single day. I think I want to be more conscious about that. There was an interesting statistic that came from the UK that said that 60% of people would prefer to see the end of factory farming. So people don't like the cruelty. They know somewhere inside them that that's not really something that they support, but they don't have another way. And reductionism is a great way to go, starting to just eat less of it, because if we all eat less, we won't have that situation anymore. We can change that, and we can actually make a difference right from our kitchen table. We can make a difference.
Do you feel that if animals are raised responsibly, that it makes any difference, or not really?
That makes a difference for people who've got lots of money, because those animals cost more money. But if you had to take 90 billion animals, which is the number of animals alive at any one time to be slaughtered for humans to eat, and you had to free range all of them, and there's no space on the planet for all those animals. So it's not a system that would work on a grand scale. Is it better than factory farmed animal? Yeah, for sure, it's much better. Is it a solution for the 9 billion human beings? No, it's not a solution. So the only way for there to be a solution is to eat less. And so maybe if you want to eat meat once a week, you can eat it from an animal that's been raised, ethically, is eating grass, not grains, and is living some kind of life, but some sort of healthy life. And then you consume that animal. that's better than factory farming. So it's a continuum. there's bad, there's better, and there's best. And you'll find yourself somewhere along that. But I guarantee that when you start your journey to plant-based, you can almost never go back, because once you have knowledge, you realize that you were blinkered and you weren't fully conscious. And so once you become more conscious and you learn more things, you can't unsee them, and so you progress. So it's a progression.
Yeah, so this journey is, like you mentioned earlier, it's so much bigger than just yourself. It will be almost a spiritual and the connective journey. So connecting with the earth, with animals, even with people, because if your body is more balanced, you tend to also be more aware and conscious of other people's and animals and all of those different animals and people's needs, right? And something that I find interesting, I don't know if it's necessarily this journey that caused you to do this, but you write in your book about how you and your husband also decided to break free from the 9-to-5 cycle of work, okay? Wanting to maybe be more at ease or at peace. I don't know what exactly the motivation was, but do you feel that the two complemented each other in some way?
Yeah, now we work from midday to midnight.
Oh, okay.
We somehow become busy again. But for sure, the move. I think moving country, just you see new horizons. You become more aware of other issues. It's been great. We've had a lot of personal growth in the process. We lost a lot of ego because we were in South Africa, and my husband had been a professional athlete. You develop this network and this ego, and when you move, nobody knows who you are, and so you start all over again, building up that I guess that ego. But we realized that's not what we wanted, and it's been a very humbling experience to go through that. So there's been so many benefits for us, and I'm glad we did it. I think it was very scary for me because I'm a real home girl, and I love routine, and I love just by the way, I'm not an aviary. Those are kookaburras.
Wow.
And at 5:45 they all start laughing like that, so it's really loud. So it's been an amazing journey for us, and we're happy we've done it.
Wonderful. So let's say you did convince one of our viewers and they do want to transition to plant-based nutrition. What would your advice be? Where should they start? What advice can you offer them?
Yeah, I think there's no such thing as perfectionism. So don't be too hard on yourself. I don't have a vegan anniversary. So many people say, oh, that's my vegan anniversary. This is the day. I don't remember the day. For me, it was a slowly dropping. So obviously I never ate animals, but I did have dairy for most of my life. And I only dropped dairy maybe 10 or 12 years ago. So, not being hard on yourself, allowing yourself, if you really have that craving, there's no rule here. There's no rule. It's your journey. So allow that imperfection and celebrate that imperfection and celebrate who you are. Definitely reach out. There's so many groups and vegans love to help because we all advocates, right? We're all really passionate about this way of life. And so they'll help you and they'll support you on your journey. And if you just need anything, you need to know how to replace egg in a cake, or you need to know what the best vegan cheese is in this supermarket, someone's going to be there to tell you. It's just incredible. You can reach out, even if you want to reach out to me, or you want to reach out to nutritionists or dietitians to support you. Please, that's another great way. If you're concerned about something, or you think you might be lacking something, reach out to a professional who can help you with that. And then, arming yourself with some new favorite recipes that are simple and easy. Batch cooking definitely helps. So I talk a lot about batch cooking. Prepare something on Sunday so that when you hit that like Tuesday night and you're not sure what to cook, you've at least made it and you thought about it on Sunday, and it just makes everything calmer and smoother. I think those would be just some of the top tips, I suppose, for early people starting out early in their journey. Don't be afraid of plant-based meats. Use them when you need them. That, you know, coming from me as a family member of Fry's, I can assure you I've eaten plant-based meats my entire life, and they can definitely help you. It just makes it so much easier. Your kids will eat it without complaining. You know, you can give it to fussy people and they'll eat it. So that makes it also a lot easier.
Right. So, and is there anything else? So, thinking about the book that you find that, you know, people should be aware of, or something you still want to touch on, you want to leave the viewers with?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we were picked off. So you spoke about you know, interconnectedness, and I think consciousness is exactly that. It's understanding that there is that fine balance that exists between us and the earth and animals, and we all operating together. There is no such thing as, you know, I'm man and I'm top of the food pyramid. It's not a pyramid, it's a circle. And David speaks, you know, of the fact that we were in the sixth mass extinction, but the major reason for loss of biodiversity is not because they're cutting down the Amazon to plant soy for plant-based foods. It's because 70-80% of the food grown is being fed to livestock, to, you know, in order to convert that food into protein for some people to eat. And then that's not even thinking about how we're transporting those grains around the world to feed animals. So, you know, we say that, and then we realize, you know, we live in Africa and we lose one child every 45 seconds to malnutrition. And we realize that actually this also impacts on people, and people that are living, you know, with hunger and poverty. And these decisions that we're making go far beyond just not eating a sentient being, or far beyond how much protein we think we're getting, and reach much further into the whole system. And we have a broken food system. And the only way we can correct that is if we start changing what we put on our plates, and realize that we are part of something much greater.
I agree that when I'm working with clients as well, you know, it's very important for them to have a motivation, you know, and often that motivation needs to be a little bit bigger than themselves. If they know they're doing it for their kids, or they know they're doing it for, you know, some bigger picture, then they tend to be more motivated. So I really love how you explain that. And yes, how we touch on the interconnectedness, how it just almost the ripple effect could just almost change the world, right? So it's amazing to hear you talk about that. And yeah, I really want to thank you for your time, and thank you for writing this book. You know, it just gives so many more people access to this content, and yeah, because often, you know, not everyone can work with you individually. So really giving more people access is amazing. Sharing your knowledge, sharing your expertise. So yeah, thanks for that, and thanks for your time today. And I really wish you all the best with your future endeavors. And yeah, one last question. Where can they find the book? I've seen it in Woolies. I've seen it in exclusive books, right?
Exclusive books.
Yes.
And then online. So there's a couple of online distributors, and you can just, I think Loot is one of them. You can just jump online, order it, and have it delivered to your home. So even if you're in lockdown, or, you know, now is a great time as well. If you're in lockdown, it's a great time to explore cooking new things. You've got a bit of time, and it's a great way to start looking at a new way of being. I mean, I think COVID, if anything, has shaken us up a bit. And that little bit of adversity has made people start to look through a new set of eyes and realize, like, how can I be a positive contributor? Because I, as a parent, I definitely don't want to get to the end of my life and see my children living in a totally destroyed world. And they turn to me and say, what did you actually do about it? And I say, well, nothing. I want to be a parent that says, you know what, I actually tried my best to make a positive difference. And these are the things that we did every single day to make that difference. Recycling is just not going to be good enough. You know, it's going to have to be, we're going to have to do a little bit more than just recycling and turning off a dripping tap. this is really starts in the food game. And no matter what propaganda is out there, we're going to have to see beyond that, and we're going to have to look for the truth and seek it out. And if it resonates with you and your intuition tells you it's the right thing, then you start taking steps towards moving in that more conscious way. Yeah, and to everybody that's bought the book, you know, thank you very much. And everyone that wants to buy the book, you go out and get it. It'll help you. It really doesn't mean I didn't write this book for millions of people to buy it. I wrote it for, I know that the right people will come to it. So, and it will make a difference to the people that need it. So thank you, Zena. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been so great to chat to you. And thank you for all the amazing work that you do.